All right, now that we've got the compression test out of the way, and even though I calculated the compression in this engine is really closer to right about 400 psi, I'm going to go ahead and take the head off and move to removing the piston to replace the rings and hone that cylinder. I might as well, I've got it out. There are a lot of things I won't be doing on this engine, even though it's convenient to do it now. But right now, let's go ahead and dismantle this a little bit so we can get down to it. I'm going to start this process by taking the cooling hoses off here, here, and here. Let's get rid of the fuel inlet hose. I have to make sure that I don't reuse these little hose clamps right here because they're just they're just cheap non-stainless. Okay, let's get this starter off. Okay, looks pretty good. A little bit of rust spotting here and there, but not too bad. And this is brand new. I replaced that here just recently with earlier work. Next, let's go ahead and take the thermostat housing off. And that's how clean it is, which is looking pretty good. Now this is the thermostat that came with the boat, came with the engine in the boat when I bought it, and I freed it up. It was well corroded and not. Yeah, it just wasn't moving at all. It moves now, but you'll see toward the top here that this piece doesn't actually close all the way, and that's not right. That should fully close. And I found out in some research that Yanmar actually recommends replacing the thermostats once a year. So more or less with an oil change. I had no idea. I've got a couple of replacements, so this is going to go in the trash. But I just was surprised that it just won't close, and it seems like a physical inability. And I can't get to the bottom of it. But anyways, like I said, I've got replacements, so this is going out. Today we'll take the air cleaner off. Or as the manual says, it's air intake silencer, I think is what they called it. You can see this could probably use a wash or what have you. I actually got a replacement for this too, so a new piece will go in there. A couple 10mm bolts in here that need to be removed. I couldn't find any mention of a gasket here. I guess they're not too terribly worried if there's any kind of an air bleed at that point. So I really should go ahead and remove the oil now. And we do that through the dipstick hole here. Just put this down as far as that will go. And you can hear that when it's done, just slurping off the bottom. Okay, we'll get the high pressure fuel line off. And from the outlet of the primary fuel filter. What is this? Oh, it's like 18 or 19 millimeters. And then the inlet from the lift pump is also 19 millimeters. Now we'll sneak in here to get the outlet from the lift pump off. Oh yeah, there's lots of diesel right there. Okay, we'll take the entire primary fuel filter off. Just take the whole housing and then we'll dump that and see if we can get rid of some of that fuel there. Okay, let's get this exhaust off. Oh, wrong way. So far I have used 10 millimeter, 13 millimeter, 14 millimeter, 17 millimeter, and 19 millimeter wrenches. There are a couple of others on this engine, other sizes, but I think those really are the predominant numbers. Okay, and the gasket, which was brand new, because I put the engine back together to do the compression test and to clear the cooling passages. I put new gaskets on it just in sacrifice to my financial budget, but I wanted it. I just wanted to make sure that we were doing things right. And this old elbow here, this exhaust elbow, is not in bad shape, but I did repair it on my trip down with the boat from Anacortes to Astoria. And you can't see, it was JB Weld just to fill in a little rust spot there. But internally it's okay. I don't know, you probably can't see that. But the internal sleeve in there is still intact. But I do have a replacement, a stainless steel piece that I'm going to put in and install and keep this as a spare. This is the oil tube that was giving me problems. It's still leaking down here, even during when I was running the engine recently to clean those passages. Even with new crush washers, it was still leaking. So that is a concern, and we're gonna get there. But I have a new tube. I'm gonna put new tube with new crush washers in, but with this off and the engine torn apart a little bit, I will have a look more at the banjo fitting in the engine block, in the side of the engine block here, down at the bottom here. I have replacements for all of the tubes, all of the oil tubes, and then I've got crush washers for all of the fuel lines and the oil lines here. Interestingly enough, while this definitely looks like it's rusted down toward the bottom here, the replacement tubes are actually copper, it seems. So I don't know where the rust is coming from per se, but get the valve cover off. And I have replacements for all of the gaskets too. So we'll just take that off. It still looks in good shape, but we'll put it off to the side for right now. Okay, we'll take the valve rockers off, and it's just this one bolt that holds them down. And now here are things that are small parts in here. There are the lifters, but there are also these toppers, the valve toppers, I think is what they're generally called. But we'll lift this off here. And I think that there's nothing much going on with this. It's just a couple pieces. On the 1GM, these arms are not captured. They are loose. And they are held in place only by the valve cover. So we take these pieces off the top here too. And these parts that are important to remember, I've just got them in bags. We'll take out the temperature sensor. This notifies you if you've got any kind of overheating. And that's 21 millimeters. Let's see how this looks. Rusty now. I don't know if you could see that or not. Pretty rusty. That's not good. I'm concerned that rust, of course, was because I allowed I cleared the passages with some acid. and it took off any kind of age-old protection that was there. Well, we'll have to find a way to test this too. Now we'll remove the push rods. We've got one fore and one aft. Okay, when I remove the cylinder head, I like to follow the opposite of what they describe for cinching down. And essentially they've got, for replacing the cylinder head, they've got these nuts listed as 1, 2, 3, 4. If this is the front of the engine where the flywheel is. Well, the flywheel. Anyways, here's the gearbox. So that's what that's the back. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to do 4, 3, 2, 1, and just loosen them off a little bit as I can. There's going to be some oil in it, so let me dump that oil out. Whatever I thought for oil, it really didn't have much, just a little bit. Last time we took it off with my son, it seemed to pour out. But yeah, so you see the rust now. That was not rusty like that last time. But those passages look pretty darn clear to me. Got a couple here, but I believe if we look at the head gasket, those are blocked anyways. Those aren't used. So let's get the head gasket and find out. Overall, I think the look of the head and the tops of the cylinders, or rather the valves, looks pretty good, I would say. I don't have any experience with this, except for looking at other people doing it, but I'd say that that's not too bad. Here's that head gasket, and this is yet another one that I sacrificed. And all of the actual, you see half of it's left with that. But you see, this has only got a few passages here. A lot of them are closed off by design, and I don't know what goes into that thinking, other than maybe the Yanmar 1 GM doesn't require as much cooling. But let's get the head and we'll compare them. So here's the head, of course, and everything's pretty much clear. All these passages are clear except for these two over here. And you'll see that those are blocked off right over here. They're not even used. Everything else seems like it. Oh, this one up here is blocked off too, and so is this one over here, but those are clear. Here's the top of the cylinder, and I think it also looks pretty good. You can still see some cross hatching in there, which I think is interesting. So I don't know. I don't know about that stuff. As I mentioned, someone told me that they could feel it with their fingernail. They could feel some indentations, and so I should just tear down the engine completely and have the cylinder overboard and replace it with an oversized piston. That is possible, but given my lack of experience with this kind of thing, I'm willing to go so far, but I really didn't want to take the whole of the rest of the engine apart. If I'm just trying to get to the, and that would be required if I had a machine shop overbore it, or even surface the head of the block, that kind of thing. I don't want to go that far. Like I said, with the given compression that I've found already, I think I'm already going out kind of on a limb here, removing the piston and replacing the rings and honing the inside. But we're going to do it anyways and see if we make progress, we do something good, or let's see what that side looks like. Let's see if we can see, or if I make it worse. This is the anode housing. Let's take that out. I replaced the anode sometime a year or two ago, not long after I bought the boat. I did a few things, but I haven't seen it since. So let's see what that looks like. Oh yeah, that needed to come out. I'm glad that we took that out. That's not much bigger when it goes in, but I'd say it's getting close to 50% gone, and it's, yeah, anyway, so we'll replace that. I don't know if I'm going to take these head bolts out or not. I might just leave them in. Yeah, I'm not sure, but it would make it easier to clean off the old gasket if these were out, so I may or may not. But now that I've got pretty much all of this done, what I want to do, however, is I want to get rid of this oil, remove this oil feeder tube, and going underneath here, we got this one that I just pointed to, and we've got this one down here. Once I get those out of there, I believe I can start taking the pan off. Okay, these look like 19 millimeters. Okay. All right, for this one, I'm just gonna have to do it. I'll be back. Before I go any further, I want to show you these exterior oil tubes here. It definitely looks rusty. I don't know how much of that you can see. Again, I have a replacement, and those seem to be copper, so I don't know what the rusting is about. But I'm going to go ahead and take a piece of sandpaper, fine sandpaper to these, and just see what they look like underneath. And the other ones here, this is the piece right here that was giving me trouble. Again, I don't know if it's the tube or if it's what's going on here, but I took some sandpaper and cleaned off some of the corrosion, and it certainly does look like just regular steel of some sort. Here's the replacement, and that appears to be a copper alloy. All right, here's the pan, and there are 13 bolts that hold that pan up, and I don't know if it's necessary or not, but I'm going to keep track of those bolts. But you see, oh boy, it's kind of tough without this light here. You see the pan itself is in really good shape. It looks like the bottom of this, I think this is a drain plug for the oil that isn't really used, and the bottom of that looks like it's corroded. Not too terribly perhaps, but somewhat. But yeah, everything under here so far looks like it's okay. I thought about fast forging, or thought about creating some way to be able to flip this engine on a regular engine stand, but I would have to take the gearbox off, and honestly, I don't want to do that. If you've been watching my videos, you know that mantra that I have, or I suspect you've heard me say it: do no harm. I don't want to make things worse. I don't have those kind of abilities. Oh, I see this one. This one's super long. Oh, it's pretty stuck. Let me look. I don't think I've got to remove this. I think it's just a drain plug, but this thing does not want to budge. All right, I looked at the service manual, and I didn't find anything. It just said remove the pan, and also there is a piece in here, a strainer, I think, but it said remove the pan and remove this. It didn't really specify an order. That's just the way it was written, the pan and then that. So I'm gonna pull this plug off anyways and see what happens. much. Okay, well, I got it off. Of course, I didn't capture it on video, but it is off. And that is... looks like there is some debris in the bottom here. Not much, but some. Who knows from when? But we'll get that cleaned out. We'll clean this whole thing up before we put it back on. Well, here's a curiosity. See if we can show you that. That is a piece of metal that I found beneath the engine after I dropped the pan. I didn't notice it. I didn't notice it come out. When I dropped that oil pan, it just fell. It doesn't seem to be damaged in the slightest. I don't think this is from the pan itself. But this came from somewhere. I'll have to find out. That's a little scary. I mean, I don't know, but I wonder if it's part of the lift pump. This this end here would ride on the cam, and then because it looks like it's broken on this far end right here. You know, I don't know if you'll pick that up or not, but it looks like it's broken right at the end there. So maybe there's some problem with this. And I know the lift pump in this engine has been changed out, and because I have the old one, but I think the old one still has this piece. So maybe that's just been a problem with this engine for a bit. Here we have the inside of the engine, looking at the bottom of the crank. All right, so now with the pan off, I'm going to get up there and get those bolts off from the piston rod, the big end of the piston rod, and then I should be able to move the piston up out of the top of the engine. Okay. Look at that. So that's the bearing, and I don't know what you can see, but there are definitely some scratches. I mean, they don't look catastrophic at all, although this side does not look good. Again, up there. And I did not buy yet replacement bearings. I don't know. I was hopeful. This is what I've got here to try to push that piston out. Okay. I think I see scoring on the side there, and I wonder if this is... Let's see if this dark mark comes off. No, that comes off. That's good. But yeah, the sides definitely look like they've... I don't know, something's going on there. But you see this piece right up in here? Hopefully. And there's the camshaft right over here. And that is, this is the lift pump right here. This is the arm of the lift pump. And so it was, I know that this lift pump had been changed out. That's the arm. Looks like it's kind of off to the side. It's going kind of forward, but you can see it. You can see it moving if I activate the actual pump. I don't know if you can see down there. That is the crank pin. The big end of the piston rod rides on that, and I can't get a terrific look at it, but from what I can see, it looks real nice and smooth. Whatever scoring is occurring on the bearings of the piston rod, it doesn't seem to have affected the crankshaft pin at all. And I can turn the engine around a little bit to kind of see the different sides of it. Again, it's, you know, it's harder to see when it's down farther below, but anyways, I don't see any scoring or anything like that on there at all. So okay, you talked me into it. I'm going to pull these studs out because I really should at least put a flat edge across this to find out what the deal is. So oh. that wasn't nearly as difficult as I thought it was going to be. It's only in 1/2 inch anyways. Yeah, I've never done anything like this before, really. Not since small engine training in when I was in my teens, so this one's tough. There we go. So even just taking these studs out, this is brand new. It's nothing I've ever done. I just look at YouTube videos and I look at the service manual for this engine and try to figure it out. And this is why I'm concerned about making things worse for myself, but so far, so good, I think. All right, this is where I'm at for right now. I'm going to go ahead and order new bearings for the big end of the piston rod. I guess I should take out the top end there too, huh? All right, I'm not going to do that today, so but I think I'll also find out what it will cost for a replacement piston of the same size. Just because, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'll get some, I'll get a second opinion. Here's the lift pump removed from the engine, and this one came with the boat. It would have already been replaced, but you see that here's the arm, or the piece that I found, I assume came out of the pan, and the reason for the scoring on the piston skirt and the big bearing at least. And this just goes in, and this piece, as I showed you, rides on the cam and actuates this piston piece right here. All right, work continues.